the 8 a.m. podcast, presented by Train the Teacher.
Okay, let's dive right in. You sent over some really interesting stuff here, all about something that, well, lots of people grapple with, right? Finding that confidence when you're speaking English and, especially how it feels talking to people you actually know, family, colleagues, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that really hits home for so many learners, doesn't it? That tight feeling in your chest, worrying about every little mistake when you're not in your native language.
Exactly. The sources call it language anxiety.
Right, and it's incredibly common, way more than you might think.
Absolutely. So our mission with this deep dive, using the material you gave us, is to really unpack it. We want to pull out the practical stuff, the clearest insights.
The nuggets.
Yeah, the real nuggets. Things that can actually help you feel, more comfortable, more confident when you're in those conversations. We're trying to cut through the noise and get to what works.
And I think one of the most vital messages, right from the get-go, is just acknowledging that feeling nervous. Totally normal. Everyone makes mistakes learning. And mistakes aren't. They're not failures. They're just part of learning. Understanding that is like step 0.
Which brings us really nicely to the first big idea from the sources. It all starts up here in your head with your mindset.
Exactly. It's not just about knowing the words or the grammar rules. It's about how you mentally approach speaking.
So what's the key mindset idea here?
Well, a big one is embracing what they call a growth mindset.
Oh.
So instead of seeing every slip up as like proof you're bad at English.
Yeah, beating yourself up.
Right. You see it as data, as information. It's a chance to figure something out, to improve. It shifts things from, am I being judged, to, okay, I'm learning here.
I like that story in the material, the one about the teacher and her student.
That was great.
How the student's confidence just exploded, not gradually, but really took off when the teacher started getting her to celebrate the tiny wins.
Not just passing a quiz, but like
using a new word she'd learned or just finishing a sentence she was nervous about.
Exactly. Those little moments, when you actually notice them and give yourself credit, they build up. They compound into real confidence over time.
It shows how powerful that internal validation is. And it connects to what the sources say about positive self-talk too, right?
Definitely. It sounds maybe a bit simple, but consciously telling yourself things like mistakes help me learn, or visualizing a conversation going well before you actually have it.
Like mentally rehearsing it.
Yeah, it can genuinely set you up mentally. Prepare the space,
So it's not just wishful thinking. It's actively guiding your inner voice and kind of framing things positively beforehand.
Right. These mindset shifts, focusing on progress, not perfection, celebrating those little victories, that's the foundation. That's where you got to start.
Okay, foundation laid. So once you start working on that internal stuff, the next logical step is practice.
Putting it into practice, yeah. But the material is smart about this. It says start where the stakes are low, where the pressure isn't really on.
So that brings us to practicing in supportive settings, finding those low-pressure situations to actually use your English.
Exactly. Think about like practicing with friends, maybe classmates, or even family members who know you're learning.
People who get it.
People who get it. The sources really highlight informal one-on-one chats because, let's face it, you can talk more freely, you can try stuff out.
And they won't get mad if you make mistakes, as the source put it.
Precisely. That lifts a huge weight off, doesn't it? It makes it a safe space to try that new phrase you're not sure about, or ask for feedback without feeling judged.
So what kind of practice works well?
You could do things like role-playing. Simple stuff like ordering food, asking for directions, introducing yourself.
Or joining like an ESL conversation group.
Perfect example. Those are designed for exactly this low-pressure interaction.
And you don't need to dive into like debating philosophy right away.
No, start easy. Talk about familiar things, stuff you're already comfortable with in your own language. Then gradually, you can tackle slightly harder topics.
And the idea is that getting comfortable in these safe zones builds up your speaking muscles.
Your muscles, your confidence, yeah.
Yeah.
It makes those real-world, maybe higher-pressure conversations feel less daunting later on. You've built a base.
Right, because the pressure is going to happen eventually, which leads us to the next section. Staying calm when you do feel that pressure mounting.
Yeah. Managing that nervousness, maybe right before you have to speak or even during the conversation. And the sources offer some really practical techniques.
Like the breathing exercise?
The deep breathing, yes.
Yeah.
Super simple, super effective. Just inhaling slowly, maybe count to 4. Hold it briefly. Then exhale slowly.
And repeat that a few times.
Yeah. It genuinely helps slow your heart rate, calms the nervous system, just clears your head a little bit.
And what about during the conversation?
2 key things.
Mm-hmm.
Consciously slow down your pace. Don't feel rushed. And allow yourself pauses.
Pauses aren't bad.
Not at all. They give your brain a vital second or two to catch up, find the right word, figure out what you want to say next. It's not weakness, it's processing time.
You can even use phrases to fill those pauses, right? Make
Yeah.
them sound natural.
Oh, definitely. Things like, let me think about that. Or, that's a good question.
Buys you a few seconds gracefully.
Exactly. It makes you sound thoughtful, not flustered.
I thought this next point was really interesting. Shifting your focus away from yourself.
Yes. Because when you're anxious, it's so easy to get trapped in your own head, right? Worrying about your accent, wondering if you use the right preposition.
Totally. Obsessing.
The advice is to deliberately shift your attention outward. Focus on understanding what the other person is saying. What's their meaning? What are they trying to convey?
That's a powerful reframe. Takes the spotlight off your own performance anxiety.
It redirects your mental energy. And other little things help too, like making eye contact, nodding. It shows you're listening, but it also helps you feel more connected and can project a sense of calm.
Even if you're paddling furiously underneath.
Exactly. Fake it till you make it, sometimes.
Okay, so mindset, supportive practice, staying calm. But let's get real. What happens when you're mid-conversation, the pressure is on, and poof, the word is gone? Or you stumble over grammar.
Happens to absolutely everyone, native speakers too.
So the material gives us some tools. Safety nets.
Brilliant safety nets. The first big one is paraphrasing. Don't just freeze if you forget scissors.
Describe it instead.
Yeah. Say, that tool, the one for cutting paper, or you forget surgeon, you say the kind of doctor who does operations.
Or listing examples like knife, fork, spoon if you can't think of cutlery.
Exactly. Describe its use, its category, or use simpler words. Can't recall tiny.
To say very small.
Right. Or not strong instead of weak. These little workarounds keep the conversation flowing. That's the key.
And I love the idea of bridge phrases for when you, mess up a sentence.
So these are golden. Native speakers use them constantly without even thinking. What I mean is...
Let me put that another way.
Or hang on, let me try that again.
They give you permission, basically, and the time to fix it smoothly.
And the sources are clear. It's totally okay. People often respect it to just admit you made a slip and fix it. A quick, oops, sorry, that wasn't quite right. What I meant was, and then just say it correctly.
People usually care more about your idea than a tiny grammar glitch you fixed.
Most of the time, yes. They're following your meaning.
What if the word is just completely gone, like on the tip of your tongue?
Also fun. You can even say that, oh, I know this word. It's on the tip of my tongue. It means, and then describe it. It's relatable.
Or if it's really not essential and you're totally blanking.
Use a safety net phrase. Something like, you know what, never mind, it's not important. And just pivot smoothly. The goal is always to keep the communication going, not get stuck.
And related to that, when you're feeling anxious, the advice is keep your grammar simple.
Definitely. Don't try to pull out, the passive subjunctive conditional perfect if you're already stressed.
Right. Stick to what you know well.
Use shorter, clearer sentences. Basic tenses like present, past. Simplifying reduces the chance of making really noticeable errors, and it actually helps you sound more fluent because you're not struggling and pausing over complex structures.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've got the internal game, the practice, the calming tricks, the language first aid kit. But let's loop back to that specific situation we started with, talking with family or colleagues. Section 5 tackled that pressure head on.
Yeah, because that's often where the anxiety can feel the most intense, right? In some cultures or just within certain families or workplaces, there can be this perceived pressure to speak perfectly.
And that fear the sources mentioned, being afraid people will think you're less smart or less educated because of your accent or a grammar mistake.
And the counselor quoted made a great point, that fear is super common, but it's often a misperception. The listener's usually focused on what you're saying, not judging your IQ based on your English skills.
But what about when family members do correct you? That can be awkward.
It can be. The advice is, first, try to stay calm. You can just thank them for the input. But it's also okay to gently say something like, thanks, I appreciate the help. I'm still learning, so please bear with my mistakes while I practice.
Setting expectations helps too, maybe beforehand.
Totally. Before a family gathering or a meeting where you know you'll be speaking English, maybe just mention, hey everyone, just so you know, I'm really working on my English, so I might stumble a bit. Thanks for your patience.
It takes the pressure off you because you've already framed it.
Exactly. And it reinforces the idea of finding that one supportive person, maybe a sibling, a friendly coworker, you can practice with more regularly in a relaxed way.
And ultimately, the sources suggest your family and supportive colleagues usually want you to succeed, right?
Deep down, yes.
Hmm.
And your courage in just trying and speaking up, even if it's not perfect, often impresses people more than staying silent because you're afraid of mistakes.
Which ties right into the next section. Really embracing mistakes and still projecting confidence.
This is so crucial. Section 6 drives home. Mistakes will happen, period. Even the best speakers slip up. The trick is not letting it throw you completely off course.
Just correct it quickly if you can. Sorry, I meant.
And move on.
Exactly. Often, listeners barely notice minor errors if you don't make a big deal out of them. Don't dwell on it.
A little smile or even a quiet laugh at yourself can help too, can't it? Diffuse the tension.
Absolutely. Both for you and the listener. And that research mentioned is so encouraging that native speakers generally really appreciate the effort non-native speakers make. They get that it's hard work.
Yeah, and that teacher's observation.
Oh, that's stuck with me too. Learners who accept that errors are part of it actually find speaking more enjoyable. They have more fun than those who are too scared to even try.
Because the fear of the mistake is often worse than the mistake itself. If you stay silent, you don't learn, you don't connect. If you make mistakes.
You're in the game. You're learning. You're communicating.
And projecting confidence, even if you have to fake it a little. It helps. Simple body language things. Sitting or standing a bit straighter, making eye contact, offering a warm smile.
It can actually trick your brain into feeling calmer.
It can.
Yeah.
And it definitely makes listeners more receptive and feel more comfortable with you. It creates a better vibe overall.
So the bottom line here is people are mostly listening to your message, not analyzing every single sound you make.
Pretty much. A positive attitude really can turn that stressful feeling into just another learning opportunity.
Wow, okay. This has been a really helpful deep dive into all that material you shared. We've covered a lot of ground.
We have. From shifting your mindset with that growth perspective
to the power of practicing in safe, supportive places.
Using those practical calming techniques like breathing and pauses.
Having those language safety nets like paraphrasing and bridge phrases ready.
Navigating the specific pressures around family and colleagues.
And finally, just embracing mistakes and keeping going with confidence.
And if you pull it all together, the core message from this deep dive seems clear, doesn't it?
Yeah. Start with your head, practice smart, have tools to cope, and remember.
Communication over perfection. Everyone makes mistakes. Getting your ideas across is what really counts.
And these strategies, pulled from the sources you sent, feel like things you can actually start using right away, even in those situations that feel intimidating now, like with family or coworkers.
Absolutely. They're actionable steps.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on.
Building on this idea that maybe speaking English confidently isn't so much about reaching some mythical perfect level.
Right, but more about having the courage to connect and really valuing getting your ideas understood over like flawless grammar.
Exactly. So the question to mull over might be, if you consciously focus on connection over perfection, what does that change about how you approach your very next English conversation?